Namaste, good evening, and welcome to this, the 34th edition of Guru Manthan 2020-21, a series of 50 discussions with educationist thinkers that happens every Saturday between 7 and 8 p.m. The Guru Manthan talks are being organized under the aegis of the Vivekananda Institute for Leadership Development, We Lead, which is an initiative of the SVYM, the Swami Vivekananda Youth Movement. We Lead's mission is to develop human and social capital for nation building, and it aims to do that by enhancing the potential of individuals and institutions across four sectors, which is the government, NGOs, corporates, and community, especially the youth. Guru Manthan is an initiative, a platform for teachers to share, discuss, debate, and learn about different perspectives and practices in education from across the world. As always, the format of the talk would be that the guest speaker would speak for 25 minutes, followed by a moderated Q&A where Praveen and I would be picking up questions both from the chat box as well as some of our own questions, and that would be for about 20 minutes, followed by closing remarks by the speaker. Today we have as our guest speaker Dr. D.R. Prasanna Kumar, who will be talking about head teachers as change facilitators. Dr. Prasanna is presently head government partnerships, Advait Foundation, Shiksha Lokam. Dr. Prasanna has done his PhD in wildlife and worked in areas of environment education and education leadership. He has designed and implemented education and school leadership development programs along with capacity development programs for functionaries in the education sector. As mentioned already, he is currently working with the Advait Foundation, the Shiksha Lokam, to collaborate with the Department of Education and other stakeholders to build the abilities to address challenges at scale using societal platforms, concepts, and co-create solutions. It's a pleasure to have you, sir, on board today, and it's over to you.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Hello, namaskara. Let's look at this, the topic. Maybe you call them as HM or a school leader or a principal, whosoever who is heading the school, how he or she can become a change facilitator is that, topic of the discussion. So I just want to look at, how to keep this HM at the center and look at from 360-degree evaluation, what we have been expecting from, these principals or HMs or school leader, and what are the major key areas, we can put them and see, what is happening into their life, and how to analyze this role as a change facilitator. And just we need to have a discussion as we, as we go on. I think, I can present it for next 30 minutes and then we can get into a question and session, and so that, we can all come to some common consensus and agreements, based on the thing that I'm presenting. So I read a lot of, the Fullan's education change, and also with the experience that I got by interacting with the HM, and also, looking at some of the policy documents, what they prescribe or envisage for the head teacher to do, including our national policy of education. And looking at this, and also look at the job chart of different states, what they expect as a head teacher to do. I'm just, consolidating all these things, not going, step by step on those things, but to see how we can, consolidate the role of a head teacher into three domains. I just want to mark them into, three major domain, and look at, what is happening in this domain. The first one, if you look at, it will be like, at school system. What is the role of HM at school system? The second thing we can discuss on role of HM at education ecosystem. If you look at education as an ecosystem where there are a lot of interactions are happening, so how we can see the role of, school leader in that. The third one is definitely at the socio-cultural system, so as a part of the society. So if you look at these three things, how we can, look at, then we will get a, sense of what we're expecting from a child, the change facilitator, and how this change facilitator also emerges another interesting thing to happen. So for anybody, if you ask, who is an headmaster, or who is an head teacher, or who is a school leader, and everybody say who heads the school, whether, we never answer that is a, head teacher of the school, is the most experienced teacher of the school. And most of the time, we think that it is very simple role. The simple role is, okay, he will be an admin, he administered the, all the process of the school. So he is the one who is having a lot of power, enshrined, so kind of a thing. What is the role expected from a teacher? The simple thing is to look at how the teaching learning happening in that particular school. So it's very simple to say, and that's the only thing he has to do. Ultimately, he need to ensure whether the teaching learning is happening as prescribed or as envisaged or as expected from the standards of the system or for the government, whatever. Is that so easy to monitor this teaching and learning? If you say teaching and learning, they looks like very simple two words, but to make this happen, so you need to look at the environment which is conducive for doing this teaching learning. You look at the capabilities on both the side, whether the teacher are capable to do that, whether the students are capable to learn, and you also look at the expectation, what teacher expects, what parents expect, they're out of the school, and what children expect from the teacher. And you also look at what are the process that helps this teaching learning, and you also look at what are the interactions and what are the challenges. So how the entire thing, what are the complications involved in the two words, teaching and learning, and some interactions happening in between. So if you look at it, there's a lot of interactions happening, and a lot of things which someone needs. And you need to create a conducive environment for teaching learning. You need to create emotional support for the children. You need to create that same emotional support for the teachers to perform. And one need to be a human resource manager. One needs to be an administrative manager. The HM also need to become a financial manager for some time. So looking at thing, it looks, the role looks very simple, but it is socially complex. So because, if you, it is like, like a back of the watch, you can find so many wheels around, but you don't know which one wheel can affect the other wheel. So in the entire school system, how one can look at managing the human resource, managing the finance resource, managing the interactions, then it will become very complex interaction. My question is, so have we envisaged the role of a school leader in this aspect as a very critical role one has to play in most of these interactions and um, relationships? So in this particular thing of let's take the school system first and look at what initially we thought about HM as a school leader or as a considered as an admin, and whether we have called it as an admin so that he will the one who looks at who need to take which class, who prepare the timetable, who prepares the school development plan, he or she prepares the school academic plan, how to do that. So initially we all thought, as is the HM, so is the school kind of a thing. So we made HM as an admin, he is the one who administered all the processes. So when you start doing this administrative role, more of the things start coming like an hierarchy. So he reports to somebody, and all teachers report to him. So he exercises a lot of power, vested powers in it, so that he is the one who decide how the school need to be run, based on the certain criteria around. So what is the administrator role? What is administering? The same teaching and learning. If you look back, so what is there to administer in teaching and learning? Is he an instructor? So have you looked him as an admin who gives lot of instruction? So when to do an assembly, how to do an assembly, who takes the class, how to take the class, size of the classroom, what need to be taught, when need to be taught, who need to take the leave, what to do when the children not coming to the school, he is having a set of instructions. Or whenever we are in the schools, if we see HM is coming to the classroom, no, most of our HMs are taking subject, but it's different. But when they come, they'll come with lot of instruction. So are we looking at these HMs as a people who are passing on the instruction from the higher ups to the children or to the parent or to the community? And slowly, when you come to the national education policy, and then when the things came as a NCF, so we started calling them as instructional leader, not of the instruction that I mentioned earlier, but as an academic leader. We started calling them as academic leaders. So mere changing of admin leader with the word of academic doesn't make much changes. It is only a designational change. We started looking them as a facilitators. They are the facilitators of instruction. They need to be academically strong. If HM is not academically strong, he can't become a role model for the teacher. So he need to be good with subject. Then there's a lot of academic training started happening to them. what is the thing that they need to do, how they need to manage the classroom, how they need to manage, how they need to evaluate, and those kind of things. For a moment, look at, there is no system around, and HM has to manage as an academic leader for his school. Imagine there is no textbook society or who somebody provides the textbook. So now imagine ourselves as in the role of an HM, looking at how we can design our textbook. What makes us to design the textbook for our school? So how we would have designed the textbook if you have given a free hand? Have we considered the society around? Have we considered the national aspirations on the other hand? Are we considering only the capabilities of our teacher? Are we saying, okay, our teachers are not capable of handling this higher end concept, so that, is our textbook become more simple? Or looking at students say, no, no, these students will not going to learn all these bigger concepts, so make it very, very simple. So what criteria we would have followed in creating a education system for our own school if you are given a free hand? So now the instructional leaders or an academic leadership is to be looked as a constructor. Suppose if a free hand been given to you, how you would have constructed your school? So including your infrastructure to the teaching learning process. So the difference between an earlier instructor and a constructor has lot of transformation. So if you look, if you give this things to a teacher, most of them, I'm not demeaning them, they want to become an instructor because constructor job is more and more challenging. It demands more and more commitment. It demands more and more applications. You demand more and more, you need to be well versed with all the process of the school. So instruction would have been a better thing, so that, you can manage somehow, because I'm not good at all the subject. I can't create workbook for all the subject. I can't create textbook for all the subject. I don't know how to teach, teach maths. I don't know how to teach science. I don't know how to manage this. So better somebody instruct me so that I will carry forward that instruction would have been a easy choice for me. If you consider me as an example, then. So now the buzzing word coming around in the world, if you read out the education journals around, now they want to look these principals as a change facilitator. So don't call them admin, don't call them academic, but they're there to make some changes. So why there need to be the changes? Why these things came, and what we are expecting them to change? If you ask if you take the Karnataka as a context of our example, if you go and ask any high school HM today what they want to change, so their focus is more on how to improve the board exam results. That's all. Is it their job of an HM or a principal to see how to give the passing package and how to improve the school results of the board exam, or how to improve enrollment because of your board exam results have been better last year, or how to make the student learning, or how to create a conducive environment for the teacher to teach? Or have we ever thought of happiness index anywhere in our job chart? How to keep the children or teacher happy? If that is the happiness index, would have been an index for the performance appraisal for all our HM, I think we would have left the teaching learning because that is the most complicated job. So we would have made them to enjoy. You teach less, learn less, kind of a thing. Is that what we are doing that? Suppose if you want to make this as a superficial job, so mere teaching whatever is there in the textbook and do something whatever learning for the sake of examination, it would have become very superficial. We don't need a HM or a school leader to do that. So passing the student from one standard to another standard by basic minimum learning, anybody would have been done, and so would have been more happy with that. So if that is the role, then who will teach them the problem solving? Who will teach the children about how to adjust to the society, how to become empathetic, how to become a good citizen of the country, how to become valuable person who's add value to the society around. So if an head teacher or a school leader ends up his role as a superficial mere performer in the school to do the functions that has already been given in the job chart, there is much to be done which is not being specified in the job chart. So a child in a HM, a child in an adult, when connects with the child in the children, then only something will happen. Are we seeing the child in the adult as being aware, awake all the time to make what the children and the school are, looking at? So these are the things which are not being given in any of the job chart which I have seen in, different state job chart. So they always, they say, okay, you need to develop a school development plan, you need to develop school academic plan, you need to ensure teacher attendance, ensure student attendance. See, it is like, mere, if you just give an analogy of the factory, nothing, differ from the, role of a manager in the factory and a role of a HM in the school. So are we equating the role of an HM as a HR manager here? So then if you want to make the children to have an higher order skill, you have a teacher who have a skill to teach those skills to the children. So it is very essential for a teacher to have that capability. So suppose if I say, if I make my children more empathetic, so unless a teacher being empathetic, so she or she can't make her children being empathetic. If you want to keep your teacher empathetic, so the head teacher need to create that conducive environment for the teacher to understand, yes, empathy works. So empathy is the one which I'm practicing. Otherwise, teachers are being mere preachers, not practitioner. So if you look at that, so if you are asking the head teacher to change the culture, now I'm talking about the culture, because unless you make the things to change, it is not a mere change. You need to change the people's thinking abilities, that are changing the conducive environment of the school. Then it becomes a part of the school culture. So school leaders need to change the perspectives of each and every individual in the school, not just teacher or one student kind of a thing. And he or she need to change the processes. So if you look at the perspectives may be about, why one need to have a garden in the school. So what education goal or objective the school garden will going to achieve at the end of the day? The same applies to your library, laboratory, and even your washrooms, which we construct in the school. What is that we are, teaching our children with the facilities that we are getting into the school? So each one has its own perspectives and each one has its own process. So unless you have the perspectives and process clear, you can't get them into practices. Suppose if you want to get them into practices, then to get the things into practice, you need more strategies. So one need to understand, one need to understand the children, one need to understand the teacher, one need to understand the social context, and based on that, he or she need to evolve the strategies. The strategies, one we need to implement, then he need a support. So look at the chain of things that, coming to your head teacher. Once you need support, strategies, the perspective and practices, you will get some solution. So if your practices are giving you the solution, then practice need to be sustainable, so that solution will be sustainable. So in a way, what are the things you need to make the thing sustainable is the one which is a question mark. Suppose if you want to change, extend 5 minutes of your in the morning assembly. Imagine the head teacher has been given, extend your assembly time for 10 more minutes and every day and do whatever you want. Imagine most of the HM teacher will struggle what to do in the 10 minutes. There is no order. We don't know what to do. Whether we need to read the newspaper, whether we need to, read them slogan, whether it need to be given for a personality development, whether it need to be given to a subject teacher. 10 minutes we can't able to handle, and if you given a free hand, So if you ask any teacher, they're asking, no, I don't have freedom. I would have done, school change better. But if you give the freedom also, if a teacher is not thinking in this role, they can't able to do. So the major problem is our school leaders empowered to envision? I'm not blaming the thing that is because the system or with the individual. So I made a small survey around and found it is very shocking that none of the states in our country have a policy for training education leaders. So the thing is, there is no policy. We can train head teacher. When you call head teacher, most of the time we call them as a teacher training. Whenever you have a teacher training program, we call head teacher as a teacher, either as a science teacher or as a social teacher or as an English teacher. And when we call them as an head teacher training program, we train them more on our, how to take these quotations, how to handle the financial instruction, how to manage your, construction work going on in your school. Give me the data of the scholarship, give me data of the things, It is like an information, we are almost training them as a program officers where we are getting the data. So look at the difference. So we are expecting them to entirely shift their focus and make us a change facilitator. and we don't have a policy to train them. Suppose imagine a senior head teacher become an HM of a high school, he or she will not undergo a days of orientation. Because how to make the perspective shift from a teacher to head teacher, or a head teacher to your diet faculty, or from a diet faculty to a BUO, we don't have a policy. There is no training policy. Forget about how many days training we need to do, what is that we need to have in the training program, how we need to envisage. If somebody becomes a BUO to DDPA from a block to a district, or from a district to a state office, so look at how we are treating these positions, and which are very crucial in transforming the entire school and the society around. And the current system always shift their role as admin and academic. We consider them when we want results, or when we want something, we'll tell them, okay, you are an academician, you need to do 1, 2, 3. And when we want data, we'll tell them, you are an admin people, you want to be strict, manage the teacher, manage the school. And whenever we ask academics, they get shifted to admin, and they get into that, and they see how they need to shift between these two roles. So when you ask about the academic performance, they say, oh no, I'm busy with the admin job. And when you ask them admin results, they will say, no, I was busy with the academics. Why are we not very clear about what a teacher need to do when, what is that we request about? So for me, if I give an analogy, I always look at this as I imagine a teacher always with, in one hand, you need having a telescope, and one hand, you need to have a microscope. So imagine a teacher with both the telescope and a microscope. What are you going to do? See, one, the telescope is actually giving you the world, the education vision. So what the NEP wants, what the NCF wants, or what the RTE wants, you need to look at the telescope and say, so what the other countries in the world are going around. Why Finland is doing that way, why we are not able to do this way, kind of a thing. You need to have a telescope. Mere having a telescope will not give you the a solution, because you need to look into your microscope to see what is your school process and practices are getting you through. Unless you have a microscopic view of what need to be changed in your school, so you can't have a clear vision of where to take the school towards. The telescope is a symbolism of a worldview. So a teacher need to have a worldview, what is happening around, and the microscope is actually a lived reality. Where is my school? Is my school is in an urban setup? Is my school is in rural, where it's surrounded by an agrarian family, or surrounded by the parents who are having a daily wages, or my school is in a slum? So each school in a different context have has different microscope, and the result that you are seeing in a microscope are totally different from what you are seeing in a telescope. Most of the time, the telescopic thing are very clear and vivid for all the head teachers on the left hand, but the right hand microscope gives you a different results and asks for a different solutions. As a pathologist looks at a different bacteria, looks needs a different treatment. Each head teacher need to look at for a different treatment to his own problem. So shifting between this telescope and microscope, and how one need to understand the lived reality, and how one need to get the things going towards the telescopic view. How I need to improve my school, though it is in a placed in a slum or in a rural area. How I need to bring the same facilities, I mean the quality of teaching I'm meaning, and maybe an infrastructure also. How I can get that into my school is one need to look at, and it is not very easy. So if you look at these threads and give it to head teacher, how we need to interwoven into the design that has been expected out of it is a skill part of it. So how are we looking at the head teacher? Is he or she able to interwoven these skills which are looked at, microprocesses or micro innovations, which results into your larger design of, the aspirations of the national education policy? That is the question. So if you look at the school itself, it as a, the so complicated. Now look at the role of an teacher as a part of the education ecosystem now. So he is part of the school now. Now he is part of an ecosystem which governs the school system. If you look at an ecosystem, ecosystem, if you look at what is in the environment context, so there are a lot of relationships and interactions. Suppose if you look at a food chain or a web of life, one depends on other, and the energy passed from one to another. So that is how the entire balance of ecosystem is there, and so is the education ecosystem. So what are we looking at? Why a school need to be part of the larger ecosystem? Because there is a moral purpose for the school. So there is a moral purpose for the HM also. So what is the moral purpose? So school is being expected to give what the society wants, what it wants, the better citizens, or the people with so many qualities that need to be fit into a particular geography. And moral purpose is to give back what the society aspires for. So it is not just innovation, but to get, so suppose if a teacher is an authoritarian to ensure this moral purpose being delivered to the society, then so it is not just if he or she has an idea that doesn't work. So he or she need to see how the idea can be made into practice or put into practice, or how it need to be get that. Suppose imagine I'm an expert in getting innovative ideas. I want to transform the school from A to B, or this level to that level kind of a thing. So it is not sufficient. What is more required is, so being an expert in managing the process of change is not at all sufficient. So how to be an expert in getting the change what you want from the others in the same system. Suppose being a head teacher, so my ideas, if I want to work alone, I'm not going to transform any school. I can change myself. I can be, like a good timekeeper. I can do a good meetings. I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever I can do. If I want to make it as a moral purpose as a part of the school, then I also need to be an expert in managing the process of change. So if I want to get my ideas as a sustainable solution, then all my awareness need to get into action. So if you look at many people, there's a gap in awareness and action. That's, I know I'll repeat in many forums. It is not that, the head teacher doesn't know this. It is not that teachers don't know this. Because in most of the training and most of the thing, and in the COVID situation with lot of workshops that they have attended, what is in NEP, what they need to do that, what is their role. It is repeatedly, we are, saying that, it is like a preacher say, okay, you do that kind of a thing. They have complete awareness, but what is blocking one to do be in action? So suppose, all teacher wants to be reflective practitioners. It is just a one sentence, right? That's what NEP wants, reflective practitioner. Is it so easy to make a person to be a reflective practitioner? So reflection itself is it's like a penance, you can't sit for a lot of time and reflecting on your own thing. But most of our teachers and teachers in the government system may get into depression also. If you ask them to be more reflective and, they become more self-critic. It is not that they can't be reflective. So I'm not, telling them to do that, but are we reflecting on the support structure? Are we reflecting on the conducive environment? Are we reflecting on our, nurtured conditions in the school? So what is that we are doing, as an HM, as a part of the ecosystem, he need to be encourage the collective action, and he need to bring the cohesiveness. That is the word that Pullen uses. What is that cohesiveness? Cohesiveness, like, how the hydrogen and oxygen been, bond in water, how you been more cohesive that, your ideas will not break away, unless otherwise, put it to a different environment. So it is not easy to say, school is a part of an ecosystem unless otherwise you interact with your own relationships. Relationship means, if a frog eating an insect, if the energy in the insect is not transferred to the frog, why the frog need to eat an insect then? So there is no way, not just for the fun, start eating an insect. And the same thing, if school doesn't take energy and give back the energy to another level, and what is the role of a school in the entire ecosystem? So the two things which are more important as a part of ecosystem, as I mentioned, is relationships and interactions. So relationships is an HM need to have relationship with diverse people and the groups, whether it is individual or institution. So you look at, just, envisage a role of a rural HM in an high school. So you need to have relationship with SDMC, with parents, with panchayat, with women and child department, or with social welfare department, or with an health department, and even with the police department to fire extinguisher office, or even to your forest department for some function. Or you need to have relationship with many stakeholders, including political, institutions, because you need to get the funds, and even from the World Students Association, if they want to get the resources. So do we have we nurtured this emotional intelligence in our HM to nurture the relationship? All these things are not part of the job chart. Are we making this vivid enough for an HM to understand what relationship means? Because relationship doesn't means the connection. Relationship means commitment. It means who influence whom. So what is your negotiations with them? What is the support structure that you are creating with one another? So because relationship always goes with these commitments, then it goes to the interactions. So what are your interactions with these relationships? So they have relationship with their bosses, maybe, the education manager. If I say, he may report to a BEO or he may report to a DDP, whoever. So what are our teacher are dependent about? So they're depending about the textbook, they're depending about the incentives given to the school, they're depending on the instruction given to the school, they're depending on so many things from so many people, and they're also independent of doing what they want in the school also. So nobody comes into the classroom and say, this is the way a teacher need to teach. So we have an autonomy at certain point, and we have a dependency at certain point, and teacher and head teacher need to look at how we can be an interdependent. So where to get the dependency, where we need to look for resources, where we can use the resources already there. So how we are looking at this, head teacher as an interdependent one in the thing. So because knowledge creation and sharing are, many things are happening in the school, but if you are not looking at how it fuels the moral purpose of the school. So all these dependencies, interdependencies are the independencies unless it is not reciprocating the moral purpose of the school, then we will run the school on our own. It is not advisable. So because we are part of the society, then look, now the third angle I am looking at the head teacher is as a part of the society. If you look him as a part of the society, because complex societies create overloads and fragmentation. Suppose imagine, your school is in a high posh area where parents are third level, learners, they are expecting you to do miracle, in the lives of the student. Then the complex society will give you lots of load. Or you have a school where children are coming from slum, children are coming from elite societies, children are coming from different classes and different strata of the society. Then also your expectations will vary too much, and HM will fails to create that reciprocate to the expectation, because always we see school as itself is a miniature of a larger society. Now look at what values that we are making children to practice in the miniature society will get reflected back in the larger society. Now, as a part of the society, and too many innovations are also not going to help for a teacher to do. It is not a ground for experimentation. Now, as a part of the larger society, the role of HM will become more and more humble. See, you have almost an influencer of a next society, the society which is coming, once they're out of your school, they'll become part of the society. So what social values that you are inculcating in the school process, what social values that you are practicing as a person and as an institution will definitely have a larger implications on the children. So now let's reflect on, so what is that? Are we aligned with the societal aspiration and all the things that we have been enshrined in the democracy or in the constitution has been practiced to the fullest? So these are the questions one we need to reflect on. I'm not saying one is doing, one is not doing kind of a thing. So if this is the challenge of a teacher, so how to sustain this change process? It itself is a challenging thing, because people do not resist change. People will say, oh, sir, we need to change that, we need to change this, we need to change many things. But when it comes for them to change, but they resist being changed. Oh, please don't change me, but you change anything that you want around, because I need to see the change around. I don't want to see the change in me. So a school leader need to reorganize the things on a continuous cycle, and also to re-engineering the things also. So reorganizing is organizing whatever they have, and re-engineering is you need to innovate something new, because you can't manage with the same resource that you had 10 years back. So how you need to reorganize on the other hand, how you need to re-engineer on the other hand, will give you how transformational you are, how forward looking you are. Because the social and moral environment of the school will reflect the school climate or the school culture or the school environment. So how to make our head teacher to learn these things, because unless they learn, they can't become a change facilitator. So if you look at things, I will take 5 more minutes to look at, because I don't want to be a lecture mode on the many things. It is 30 minutes now. So I'm not suggesting or preaching anything, but my thing goes like, if you look at any individual as a in the role, whosoever in the role, need to have a do some external shift and internal shift. External shift is to say, okay, how you need to be your school, the physical environment in the school level, or how you perform your own, personality traits, things, how you need to manage, kind of a thing. And you also look at the internal shifts. So how committed you are to the society. So what values drive you to do the way you are doing. So how your practices are being, driven by which value of the, education policy. So it is not just HM as a hand and legs of a system to do whatever system wants, but he need to be the head and heart of the system. He need to think what he wants to do, and he need to be more humble in what he wants to deliver. So learning at work and learning at the context is what we need to practice now. We need to make more spaces for our teachers to learn from the context and learn from the working, and be uh, accountable for what they're doing. And also, see, because if I look at any of the head teacher, so they don't maintain a diary. They don't, being a reflective practitioner in the, it's a far away, but they don't reflect on their day-to-days, events also. They don't document them. They don't, reflect on those things also. Because, the new, if I was reading, Collins is telling the individuals who blend extreme personal humility with intense professional will are the leaders that for the current generation. So if you look at extreme personal humility, and he is also talking about the intensive professional will. So now if you look at our HMs as a professionals, in a way, if you look at how they can be the professionals of the role that they are taking. So that's where we need to look at, it's a very complex role, and it is not just mere a change facilitator. And if you want to become a change facilitator, and in a way, another argument goes like that, a teacher not as an individual. A teacher is a part of the institution, so that whatever change at school need to happen, it need to happen not by individually, but also with the teachers surrounded by him, so that things will going to happen. Like the quality of teacher pipeline is not there, then the things will not going to sustain. So how to make this happen? The thing, it looks at, no school can sustain the change as an individual. So if a teacher want to be change facilitator, he need to create a quality teachers in the pipeline, and he also need to create this entire practices and the tradition in the school, so that even if he is not there in the school, the things need to continue and sustain. So it is not just change facilitator, but as a mentor who inspires people, who motivates people, who energizes people by his own practicing his own values and qualities. So other than that, it will become, if you look at a teacher or a head teacher, unless he develops a value based or accountability focused leadership, so then we are creating only the managers. They listen to the system and they deliver what the system wants, but not what the aspirations of the education policy wants. So now I know, I think it's a long lecture session. So let's get into the question answer session. I think questions are welcome. Uh, if I have missed something, we can cover up in the question answer session as well.
Thank you, Prasanna, for the remarks. I'm sure your remarks have pushed a lot of teachers into questioning themselves mode. Am I doing this or not doing this, and so on. But I have two questions, or basically comments, which I want you to elaborate on.
Yeah.
Many of the remarks which you have made are kind of relevant to a public education system.
Yeah.
I am sure there will be parallels to that even in the private setup.
Yeah.
So in the public education system and in the private setup, have you come across role models? May not be a person who is doing everything that you have mentioned, but doing one thing very well from where we can learn. So can you highlight some such individuals whom you have come across?
Yeah, Praveen, it is not one, but as in my stint in the policy planning unit in the system, we developed a program called School Leadership Development Program. School Leadership Development Program envisages that how to create the school leadership across different levels, where how to develop good education leaders at the school level. There are a lot of instances where head teachers have taken both in private and also in the public education system. And it is not just talking about whether they are looking at the telescope. On the other hand, forget about whether they are more authoritative on the policy or what NCF or NEP tells that, but they're more focused on the microscope. They know where the children is coming from, what the children is lagging about, where the children's problems are. So most of our programs are also had a project where a teacher need to select. It can be creating a garden to a lab or a library to talk to a parent and to talking to the stakeholder. In most of the things what we observed is the HMs are becoming more and more humble when they started looking more seriously in the microscope. So it doesn't mean that see, they started telling that how come I've been more ignorant about the background of my own children. So, and somebody who is not attentive in the classroom, the teacher may take them into task, why you're not attentive. But when the HM sits with them and understand, why you're not attentive, what is your problem? Do you have any problem at home, or your father has been drunken the last night, or you didn't have a good sleep and all this thing. Then they become more, humble, and the way they look at the children and their problem will become totally different. So the entire thing is to look at whether it is a private system or a public system, how to get those, the inherent right or good qualities already there in the HM, and how to get them, to them to understand, okay, how to make this happen in the class. That is the important thing.
Yeah. Follow-up question.
Yeah.
You made two very interesting remarks about creating a pipeline of
Yeah.
teachers. One, I felt there is very limited scope for a HM in a public education system to actually, create a pipeline of teachers in a government school.
Yeah. So continue. Sorry.
Yeah, and the second remark was one of the challenges which I have seen is striking that fine balance when teachers in a school seek direction
Yeah.
as well as also expect freedom to express their ideas with a HM. So how do you think a head teacher can strike that balance?
Yeah. That's the question is simple, but answer is a little complex. The thing is, so HM in the public education system, I agree that they don't have any control on creating the pipeline of teacher, because suppose the head teacher wants to sustain the changes that he has already created in the school to be sustained, so he need to go way out to see how to create that environment. Suppose imagine I'm more passionate about creating a kitchen garden, and I thought, okay, I want to be the practice need to be continued even if I get transferred. Then I start imbibing, I'm start inculcating these things to my own fellow teachers, why it is important. Either I will catch out of a physical education teacher or some teacher who is interested in craft or horticulture. So head teacher need to find a means of striking the right kind of thing, where the card is in which teacher, how to create sustaining one initiative. So the thing is, even imagine, if the teachers are also getting transferred in the public education system to other school, but the way a teacher, the way he influences them, that's the way, we also proposed to the government at that certain point of time. Why don't you, work on creating future leadership program? Because the system knows, who are those teachers, senior teacher will become HM after 5 years of their, next promotion, right? Then why don't you nurture them as future leaders? So HET also knows, who is the next head in the entire school. So why don't we give that freedom to a head teacher to nurture that teacher in all the admin, academic, and this thing? Otherwise, the teacher is being, remote into the entire thing and only focusing on some subject. And next morning he will become an HM of the same school by promotion. So we are, inviting our own danger after so many, this thing. We know that, he will come as an HM and on one day he or she, but we never look at how to, orient them. The second thing on the freedom and autonomy. So it is always a debate, that always goes on. But if you ask anybody, they say, the school is an autonomous institution. They want to do anything. And, it is like, you do whatever you want, but do exactly what I say, something like that. I want to be creative, but I want you to do how I want to be, you to be creative. So here what to do, I have seen many HM. So they're very clever in, giving that space to that, their own teacher. They will say, okay, if I don't want to come to your classroom for an observation, you do whatever you want, but I want these things to be ready by, this thing. This is how I wanted to, see you. Or some of the head teacher will also, go and sit in the classroom and observation, make remarks, they break relationships, kind of a thing. So there is, if you look at the job chart, technically, if you look at, there is no policy or anywhere it has been written, this is the way head teacher need to function. So how we are doing this autonomy and the authoritarian is based on our interpretation. So my only thing is how we can, because, there are very, very good examples, across Karnataka, but the problem is we are not documented and, presented to the other head teachers who are the coming head teacher. How you need to, exercise your potentials both as an, administrator and also a person who give autonomy to your own teacher. So it is a very, tricky question, but one has to, answer based on their own experience and the context.
One last question before I hand over to Ramesh.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound very pessimistic, but
Yeah.
from a system point of view, usually administration is given or seen as more powerful than an academics department.
Yeah.
While an academician would think an academics department is much more important than an administrative work.
Yeah.
Now, while this dichotomy exists, for many, many years, I felt that whenever there is a senior teacher who goes on to become a subject coordinator or a section in charge or a HM, we actually lose out a good teacher. Because the number of classes they take actually drastically comes down.
Yeah.
So how do we balance this?
Yeah. Because if you look at, the system need to, actually reflect on this, because we always think that the administration is for academics only. So whosoever is there, even if you look at the CPI, he is there to ensure that every child in the state need to learn. That's all. If the children is not there in the school, there is no CPI, right? The thing is, there's no commissioner for education. We don't need a commissioner. So the entire administration need to look at how I need to facilitate this teaching and learning. The ultimate thing is that. So when we are doing that, the most focus goes on how to control people, how to make them to realize that they are, obeying my orders. Started enjoying this powers given to them. Maybe, the more and more you'll become confident of your, role, kind of a thing, you'll become more egoistic, saying that people are listening to me. But are they really listening to you how to teach and learn? No, they're only listening to your orders. So because the education department, it shouldn't have an admin and academic as a separate thing. They need to have administration the academics. It is they're administrating the academics. It is not they're administrating the human resource, per se. So because of this gap in understanding, we have DDPAs separately and we have DDPA, admin and DDPA development in the, diet. So that's how, we the bifurcation in our minds and our system. But because of that, teacher is also, taking that advantage and say, okay, if you want to do me 12th period, I will do 12th period. That's all. Don't ask me what I taught in the 12th period, right? So because, we have teachers who are inspired and they want to do on that, they will get caught in this admin loop and they'll lose their interest. I have seen many good teachers, we are already say, when can I take a voluntary retirement because, system is harassing me. And many things are happening around because people want to enjoy this, hierarchy and the, power enshrined to that. Because the power what has been given need to be power for teaching and learning. Suppose if you ask any supervisor who goes to the classroom and with all the data, ask him or her to come and teach that particular subject, they fail to do so in many instances. Because once we become administrator, we think that we are mere administrator, not an academician. So that is the gap that we have created in the system from a long time.
Thank you. Ramesh, over to you.
I have actually a counterintuitive question to the whole thing. We seem to be speaking about of a head teacher, being a change agent, being a facilitator, being aligned to the moral purpose of the school, being a great ambassador of the society, and all of these things. He must also be, he or she must also be an education leader. Are we in a sense, expecting too much from a head teacher? Are we in a sense expanding the job description, job role to such a level that the head teacher actually does not know what he or she has to actually be doing on the ground? And is the dissonance that is coming from this one a function of our own, very high expectations of what a head teacher is or should be doing?
Yeah. I think I completely agree, that because we, use the last mile, person whom we can, comment on, that's why we are holding an HM is responsible for all the things kind of a thing. I completely agree. And it is too much of load. That's why in the beginning I, mentioned, because he or she need to, handle a lot of expectation. Because if you look at the same amount of responsibility or even more is being, envisaged on the block resource coordinator or a block education officer or a district education officer also. So it is the same, multiplier effect. But ultimately, when you look at the parents, teacher, children, and the HM, there is a lot more thing to do apart from blaming on the system also. So if you look at the way one can look at how to create the school culture, how to create operate my own school, there is a lot of expectation on the head teacher. But it is the expectations are not something unimaginable or something then out of the blue. But what were we asking? So we are asking HM to be a person who reflective practicer, who need to be humane, he need to be empathetic, he need to have values, he need to inculcate those values. So it doesn't mean that others in the system shouldn't have, or others in the system, shouldn't, do the way, because he is the one point of contact who is the one who directly meet the children and he directly meet the parent. No other officers who have the direct connection with the children and the parents as the HM having. So that's the reason, why the expectations are more with the HM than the other officer. But it doesn't mean that whatever the expectations that we have from HM is that we don't have from their officers also. It actually been, exponentially more from them also. So their responsibility is also more how to create a conducive environment for the school to function.
Thank you, sir. Could you just expand a little on your current role in terms of what the Advait Foundation and the Shiksha Lokam, in collaboration with the department, what is it that specifically you want to do when you say that you want to address the challenges at scale of using societal platform concepts and co-create solutions? So what exactly is the change that you that you want to?
I think people in this discussion know about Diksha as a national platform of MHRD. So where Diksha is an LMS where most of the approved MHRD and most of our teachers might have already done the NISTA program and kind of thing. So when the XSTEP Foundation led by Nandan Nilekani wants to do this program on how to reach out to each and every teacher with the resources, they formulated this Diksha. And Advait Foundation with the leadership of Shibu wants to look at how we can support the education leadership in the same way. So because where you get these solutions, if you say, suppose if a teacher has a problem, how to pull resources for the school. If somebody has already done it in Assam, and if I want to know or learn from him, I need a platform where to exchange my ideas. That's all. So I don't want to reinvent my own wheel. In the entire India, if you look at, there are a lot of innovations have already happened, but they are not documented properly and they have not been shared in the language that people can understand. And many a times, Even if you take in Karnataka, some good practices of schools happened in Mysore. I think people in Tumkur, doesn't know that. We don't have a system where to share our best practices or the solutions. I don't want to call best practice, but the solution for a particular problem. So the Shiksha Lokam is a platform where it encourages people to, come together and share their ideas and the solutions so that, people across the country can learn from each other. So it is like a societal platform where you can, learn from each other. So that is the way, the work we are doing. Only thing what I am doing there is to convince the system. So why don't you, put your the solutions onto the platform so that people can learn from it. The solutions could be a core. Solutions could be how to solve a problem. Solutions could be the way you analyze your, problem, the need analysis, whatever. The solutions could be many. So that, the thing.
Yeah. One quick question from my side, and then there is another question from the audience. There are two observations I've had being in the education space. One is attitude is something which we should recruit based on skill sets can be provided. And in spite of all the challenges that we have discussed, if there is a HM who is really motivated, and or even a teacher for that matter who is really motivated, they have brought out a difference in their respective schools. We have numerous examples of that. However, I think our teacher education at this point somehow I think fails to capture that essence of getting the right sort of people or the right attitudes into the teaching profession, especially into the roles of the head teacher.
Yeah.
Do you have any experience, or have you been a part of any experiment which has done something on these lines?
Yeah, the right question, Praveen. But the system merely looks. Suppose we have also brought this in kind. When you're the promotions. When you talk about the promotions in the system. So what is the thing that you're considering? You're considering only the your experience or your age, right? So imagine, I have seen many instances in the higher primary schools. I don't want to hurt anybody in this team. Suppose imagine a TGT teacher. I was done a trained graduate teacher who is working under a headmaster who is maybe from an SSLC or TCH thing. So if he or she is not allowing the innovative thing that a teacher wants to do, then imagine, how difficult would be the life of a teacher, in doing that. It doesn't mean that only qualification, I'm not talking about. So now you look at whether you have a DED or an SSC or a PUC, whatever, unless you have a mind to, encourage the youngsters, unless you give freedom to your own teacher, unless you see, how to innovate things, you are not open for experimentation. And if you are not humble enough to, sit in a group and say, what is that we all need to do for a school? And if you are not taking those children inclusively into the school development process. So now you look at, as you mentioned, it is not the experience, it is not the age, and it is also the attitude of the people, in making this thing. And I also seen people who have been selected through the examination like KES and those things, we become HM, and they're also stopping the innovations at certain point. So the mere thing is to see, because our only criteria of taking, in certain things, people can also go for a selection criteria. See, recruitment is one, everybody is screened on one thing. But when you are promoting somebody, why don't you select them? So why don't you have a criteria? Because in Karnataka, we don't have a review system. I'm not talking about the private education system, but in a public education system, we are not reviewing anybody on their performance. When you don't have a performance appraisal, so then why I need to perform then? So then you become, the high performance people also will become mediocre at, certain point of time, because, even, the treatment that, the people are reward and punishment is, happening, that may also, make me, okay, being mediocre would be better. That's how, we have come across a lot of instances where, highly motivated teachers who have been, bulldozed with lot of work, and they become, mediocre at the end of the day. Mediocre in the sense they don't want to come out of the, shell. That's all.
Okay, we are out of time. So one last comment from the chat box, and then we'll move to your closing remarks.
I think I have seen a couple of questions in the chat box also.
Yeah. So one of them is about the teachers associations.
Yeah.
The comment is that a lot of teacher associations seem to be fighting for teachers' rights, but
Yeah.
not necessarily doing much for the children's learning. Your comments on that?
Yeah, I can't comment on that because each one's experience would be different, when you look at the thing. But the thing is how the system or the thing, involve the teacher association in the education planning. So that makes a lot of difference. If you start seeing them as an external thing, so why don't we involve them at each level that, you are the person who need to drive this. So what is the role of teacher association in, convincing the parents to in enrollment? And what is the role of teacher association in revising the textbook or in creating an Inspire Award, program kind of a thing? How, because, we have not given any role for them, like we have not given the specific job chart for a teacher. There is no specific job chart that we have given to them, from our end also. Whatever they know they are doing, see that be, good or bad, we like, we don't like, but can we have a public expectation from, teacher associations? Can we get a, points mentioned, this is what the society expects from you, or as a parent, this is what I'm expecting you. They are not been considered on that. And second thing, because once, as I mentioned you, when the people get into hierarchical thing, the entire shift of focus will be totally different. What I'm supposed to do. So why teacher association? Teacher association is to create a conducive environment for a teacher, right? Why the conducive environment? It is for them to teach. So you're creating comfortable zone. If it is driving a teacher out of teaching better, then the comfort zone will becoming a problem for the children, not as a solution for the children, right? So who needs to tell them the comfort zone that you are creating is marring or benefiting a children? If somebody doesn't look at, we need to give them the microscope to them also. So look at the micro things, what is happening from your, things that you are doing for the teacher. So that thing, but their intention is to make teachers' life better so that teacher will teach better. But if teacher gets into comfort zone, then teacher association need to look at, so what I'm doing is not, benefiting the children. So that's all.
Thank you. So we'll now move to your closing remarks.
Yeah.
You
just asked examination. Yeah, I think as examinations are going on, Syed. And even if you look at when we called for 10,000 teachers, we are getting only 2,000, and our teachers are eligible, getting out of that. So imagine if you conduct the same examination for 8 teachers in the system. But it is a good idea, where you get eligible teachers, within the department, you can do some in-service examination to promote them as a teacher. And as I mentioned earlier, we need to focus more on future leadership. So because system knows who becomes a future leader in which year based on their own service record. So we can start early instead of solving the problem when it comes. We can start little more advanced in looking at those future leaders, and we can start orienting them.
Any take-home message from you before we kind of close up?
Nothing. I think yeah. The thing is, it is, I go to the first question that you asked. We are expecting too much from an head teacher, but because nobody looked at head teacher role is such a simple one, because it is more and more complicated. And look at, if the head teacher role itself is complicated, then how complicated would have been a role of a BU and more a role of a DDP and role of a director. But why we are taking it so simply? We are taking it as though, the more and more you are going up, the more and more you are accountable and answerable for the children. We are all saved because the children are not asking the right question, and parents are not suing us in the land of the court of the land. If they start doing that, I think each of our role become more and more complicated. So just to get aware of of these things, better to get it. We can become more and more humble to the role that we are being envisaged, and how we can accountable or answerable to the system. That is the one which need to focus on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Prasanna. It was a wonderful lecture, good, great Q&A as well. And I also thank all the participants for coming on to this platform once again. And thank you, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Prasanna, once again for a grand this one. Then next week, we'll have Dr. Chandrasekhar Damle speaking to us on blending culture and the culture of experiential learning while focusing on Kannada medium education, based on his learning from the running the Sneha Shikshana Samsthe at Sudhya. Please do join us again next week. Thank you and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Praveen and Ramesh, for this wonderful opportunity, and thanks SUIM for giving this opportunity to share my thoughts and all. If anything, if I hurt anybody's feeling, because I worked in the public domain for a long time, so we talk though as though we are in the public education system, but the intention is how to excel better. That's all. If anything's been thing, apologies. And if you have any questions, please write to us so that we will keep. I'll be in other sessions also, so that if I get some questions, I will try to mail them to you also. Thanks for keeping me in this loop, and I enjoyed all the sessions, Praveen. I never thought I'll also be in part of this, sessions one day. Good, and it is not a Guru Manthan, but it is a Guru Marathon. It is running successfully for almost 34 weeks. It is not, easy that way, pulling the resource person, the people. So let the marathon continue, and we will go on and on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Hope
you.
to see you every week.
Yeah.
Thank you.